Good evening. I am so excited to be with you again tonight. It has been a long day at the office. In my real life, I am an educator. I'm somebody who has the opportunity to work in schools all over the country, and I need the opportunity sometimes to decompress. And tonight is one of those opportunities that we have. I get to talk to one of my very good friends, a sister who you're going to love how we met. Um, it's important to know somebody, a backstory, but I get to talk to a very good friend of mine. Some of you know her, many of you do. She is an Emmy Award winning TV host, and you will recognize her as soon as she comes on, but not just a TV host in terms of her show as a judge, but really she is multidimensional. Please join me in welcoming my very good friend, Miss Lauren Lake. Lauren is only human. Can I hear? What's going on, sis?
It is so good to see you. We finally made it happen.
I know, right? It only took what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years?
Years.
Yes. So I'm gonna jump right into it. How do we meet?
Okay.
How do we meet?
Okay. So this would have been maybe over 10 years ago. I get a call from Dr. Bill Cosby. At that time, I was traveling the country, doing speaking engagements with him. And he called me and he said, I have this brother I really want you to meet. And he's about to do a hit on Fox News. He's not really into TV a lot. I know you know a lot about it, but I want you all to meet because I think you all have a lot in common. You're really all about community. You're about empowerment. You're about students. You're about education. You're about, learning how to be responsible for oneself, limitless lives, all of these things. And he was so excited for us to meet. And that's how we met. We first talked on the telephone. You, of course, knocked that television hit out of the park.
And then go that far.
You've been on TV ever since. Okay.
Well, again, I recognize, and I think Lauren recognizes that Dr. Cosby has had his other challenges, we'll say, to say the least. But he's the first person to put me on television. Bill Cosby is the person who put me on TV. And Lauren had traveled with him and met him. How did you meet him?
Actually, I had done a piece on Fox News. That was years ago when Fox News actually would have the opposing opinion on. And remember that? Do you remember that? That'd be 20 years ago. But it was. And I was advocating for the victims of Hurricane Katrina, very fiercely. And I got a call from his publicist saying that he would be interested if I did a speaking engagement with him. I don't even remember where it was, the first one in DC. And they ended up booking me for this speaking engagement. And then I was booked for more and more speaking engagements at which time I met you. And that's how I met him. I was actually on air advocating and his PR person called and they ended up booking me for a speaking engagement. Yep.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because it's easy to take a look at some of what a person has done, some of what a person is, and not be able to look at them in the sum of who they are. How do we, in the work that we do, deal with the whole of a person in the work that we do?
I started off as a criminal defense attorney. So, for me, it was my life's work, right? Looking at the totality of a person. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes, of course. Do you often feel conflicted? Yes. Is it possible to know, see, and experience the good in a person and yet have to honor, acknowledge, accept, and deal with the bad, the awful, the criminal, right? This is the complex nature of humanity, right? And I think we've entered a very singular dialogue of, somebody did this, blah, 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 cancel them and everything that went with them, right? And I think that becomes easy. I often talked about this as a former criminal defense attorney. It is very easy to do until it is your son, your brother, your father, your uncle, your sister, your daughter, your mother, right? And so I think that's where we are in this space and time, is where everybody's figuring out how they do this. And I think it's important to note that it's an individual thing. I don't know what the thing is. I think now that we have the internet and social media and we're this collective online community, that people somehow believe that if the most people post one thing, that now that is the opinion, right? That everyone needs to subscribe to. That is not reality. We are wasting our minds, our spirits, our time trying to think that we are going to just convince people who may not believe what we believe to believe what we believe, because it is what is popular or what is convenient or what is easier or what seems most right to me. So I think that's what we're in the struggle with right now.
So should we cancel Dave Chappelle?
Oh, no. I just went to Dave Chappelle's show. He was just in Detroit at the Fox Theater. And it was, interesting because some of the material I could see from the stand-up that he was trying some of it, right? He was starting some of it. It wasn't exactly the way you saw on the special. But I mean, first of all, who's this word cancel, right? I mean,
right.
That then I think in some way implies that some person has the power to cancel, right? And then that also means that the canceling then is objective. So, I mean, what are we canceling? Are we canceling the person, their career? Are we canceling their families? Are we canceling their intellect, their genius? Are we canceling just their their pay, the monetary, the component of their gift? What is it that we're canceling? Now, I remember somebody writing one time something that was, of course, a little bit politically, what people would deem to be politically incorrect. And they said, and go ahead and cancel me, because the news flash is you don't have the power to cancel me. You've canceled me 10 or 15 times. And I'm still here. So, I don't even enter those ridiculous conversations. One of the things I'm learning to do as a woman of a certain age, and even on this here internet, okay, that I had to get used to, is that I mind the business that pays me, right? I do not have time to get on the internet and be talking about something that has absolutely nothing to do with what I believe to be relevant at that time. If we start taking comedic talents, right, and policing what they can say, or policing whatever it is they have to offer in the form of humor, what are we gonna be laughing at? Because at the end of the day,
right? Because
what'd you say?
Was he right? Was Dave right?
Because I absolutely understand the analogy. Yes, I think I understand the analogy.
Oh, yeah.
I do not believe, and like I said, this is what is really, really interesting about this particular controversy, right? Usually I'm busy carrying golf clubs and lacrosse equipment and footballs and dropping off at practice. So I'm not usually in a lot of this.
For her
right,
son.
This is my real life, my mom's life.
She's not a caddy in her free time. This is for her son.
I'm CJ's driver. But this particular time, I'm very good friends with the comedian Donnell Rawlings. And Donnell is one of the amazing comedians who's on the Dave Chappelle tour. I was in Detroit, my hometown. They were there at the Fox Theater. Donnell and I happened to realize we were in Detroit. He's like, come to the show. Long story short, like I said, I started seeing this material come together. And I think I have even a larger perspective, because like I said, I saw him working through this. And it was so clear to me that this was not in any way a condemnation of the LGBTQ community. This was not about that in any way. If you follow the logic, it is basically, and if you connect it to, I think, the previous comedy special, where, what was the joke he did one time? He goes, okay, I'm gonna imitate somebody. If you do anything we don't like, remember he did that joke, and it was like,
you.
Who is that? Yeah, he goes, and it's you, it's y'all. right?
Yeah.
He has been connecting the dots on what he's been trying to say now in his comedy, is that we have become a nation, a culture, a community of finger pointing drama kings and queens, right? Where
Yeah.
if the joke does not fit what we want, we're gonna tell everybody's jokes. We're gonna tell you what the punchlines
I mean,
of your joke.
but isn't that the part? Because this is really where, like, let's just call it. Let's just call it out. It is white people deciding when they are going to be oppressors or oppressed or the savior, because that's what he was really talking about. He was
But
saying,
and it's even deeper. It is also the responsibility, right, of the Black community. Okay, I think he was really going here in this, in that if we are going to allow ourselves to be up in arms about one societal ill, right? Why in the world are we not up in arms in this other very important, relevant societal ill? Like, what makes one societal ill more damaging, more worthy of, you know, you know,
ire, frustration,
right,
and
right,
yeah,
right,
and,
then another. And that's what he's looking. He's telling you, look at your value system. That's to me what the joke is. And I think there isn't a person in the audience, inside the building or out, that cannot relate to the moment where they had to reevaluate evaluate their priorities.
but stay there. But stay there. Put Black in front of anything, and it becomes more problematic. A
Right.
a homosexual is a homosexual, but a Black homosexual,
That's right.
a woman, is its own issue.
Right.
Being a woman is its own issue, but being a Black woman is a whole different. Being a man may carry its own challenges, but being a Black man is a whole different thing. Because what I think Dave Chappelle was trying to do was something that you and I talk about. I don't get to be Dr. Steve Perry. You don't get to be attorney Lauren Lake when you leave the context of the place where you are identified as such. Meaning that if I am in my schools, I get to be Dr. Steve Perry, the earned position that I have, who went to this kind of school and did things, and I get to be successful. But then I take this off, right? I come here and I get in my car, right? And I start taking my son home, and I'm not Dr. Steve Perry anymore. I'm the furthest thing from that. I'm just a Black man driving a big car.
That's it.
And I actually lose my full status by just leaving the place that I'm in. I lose everything. I may have the biggest house on the block, but someone with the smallest house on the block, or who's just white and driving by, can take that away from me. They don't have to be a cop. They could be a Karen.
Absolutely.
They could be a Ken. They can take that away from me. And so what Dave Chappelle was saying is, you don't get to punch down on me. You don't get to do that. You don't get to punch down on me. I, as a Black man, don't get to live beyond my status, because at any given time, you can come and say, come here. Get your ass back here.
That's right. Right. And I think it was years ago, and I may be paraphrasing, but I'm sure your audience will remember this. Or he did an interview years ago after that whole thing where he had the big, I think it was the Comedy Central deal, where he had the whole Dave Chappelle show, right? And he left. And he had such a poignant position in this one interview where he said, I realized at one point that they weren't laughing with me, they were laughing at me, right? And when you talk about, and look, I'm not a Black man, I am a Black woman, but I have a Black
son.
So what I realized in that moment is that he became intensely aware, right, that he was the joke, right? Although he might have been making the money and making the content and been the star and been the whatever at that time, right? In those rooms, right, surrounded by these people, they weren't laughing with him, they were laughing at him, that he realized
the butt of the joke.
And that he was the butt of the joke. When there was the hierarchy, he was here. I think that joke he's trying to do is only an extension of this very real realization that he has come to in his life. And he said something in one of his comedy specials that I went to before this, and he was saying something like, I am fighting to get free, right? Like, I am fighting to get free through this comedy, because I think we have created certain parameters in our society where, as I said, certain societal ills are deemed to be more, you shouldn't say.
They carry the whole
carry my weight, right?
is that,
but who's making this up?
Right. And his point is there's another comedian who is white, and he has this joke, and he says, I have a career-ending joke. And he says, there were 3 Jewish guys. And then he leaves it there. Like, anything I say after that is going to crush my career. But to Dave's point, Dave used the N-word probably about 300 times.
Yes.
Nobody had an issue with that.
Nobody. No. And what's interesting is I am not an N-word user, right? I don't really like to hear it. It's just not for me. I realize that people have said they've taken control of the word and they flipped it, all this. I'm telling you my truth. My truth is it's not a word I like, I use, and I don't want to hear it. Even in comedy specials, when people are using it, it's almost like I have an internal bleep where I'm just like, I don't want to hear it. I'm just trying to get through to the joke.
Yep.
To your point, that's out there front and center, right?
No, that was cool. And his point about the baby, he's saying this brother killed someone, whether it justified or not. It had no impact on his career, but he makes an inappropriate comment about homosexuals, and now his career is supposed to be over. Tell me how because you walk this very fine line in your television show. Is it divorce court?
No, paternity court.
Paternity court. That's what I'm blanking on it. And as I'm saying,
paternity court. Yes.
Right. Paternity court.
Divorce court. It's another great.
I know. And the sister there. Yes. It's paternity court. You have the challenge of not making that cooning. You have the challenge of trying to find a way to make that make sense for people as people. Tell me how you walk that really fine line where you see 2 people, in some cases of color, who find themselves in a situation where they're trying to find out whose baby this is.
Yes.
Talk to me about what goes through your head as you're preparing your remarks.
I think one of the things that people don't know is that I don't know the cases before they come in. I don't know what the story is going to be really. So I am really on a fact-finding mission when I'm asking those questions, trying to figure out who did what happened, how did we get here? And I think what I do instinctively and intuitively is I do my best to spiritually connect and meet people where they are. Right? That's why you'll see sometimes where I'll get really angry and people will be like, whoa, you was all over him. And it's like, well, because really the woman was probably so angry and it's an anger she can't express. And so I try to express it to move into a place where they've never moved before so I can begin to uncover how we get here. It is very much a tightrope, but what I believe is it's worth the risk. I think sometimes people have, written to me, you so hard on the woman, you so hard on the man, you so hard, everybody has a complaint about what you do and they feel like they can do it better. And I always say, great, because when you get your judge show, you can do it exactly the way you want to do it. But I'll tell you what, you take on 1,000 people's stories over the last 6-7 years, right? And have them tell you those stories and you take that in and you look at these beautiful kids' faces and you do that. And you realize that at some time you got to say that this baby or this situation is worth more than me saying something wrong, me saying something to offend someone, maybe be getting it wrong. Sometimes I go all the way off on somebody and at the end of the day, they're right. They're not the father, But that doesn't change the fact that I go where I go because that's what I do.
But it connects to who you are. One of the reasons I wanted to start at the top with how we met is because you, Lauren Lake, have done every kind of show that there is. I mean, you've had your own shows around designing. This is the person who designed our offices. She did a fantastic job. But so you've been on HG. What are some of the networks you've been on?
Uh,
I know
I hate
it's easier to you. Okay, have you not
only
been on Chinese television? Let me
paternity
start
court.
there.
Paternity court, actually, paternity court, I believe, does in all over the world. But I will say this: paternity court is syndicated, so there are not many channels that I have not been on. I did have a show on HGTV for 6 seasons called Spice Up My Kitchen. I've been on TLC. I've done a lot in the home space many years ago, 20 years ago. Yeah, I've done shows like The View, The Real, Dr. Phil, all of those shows as well. I've been doing television now for about 20 years, so I've been around.
Well, but to me, the biggest backstory for you, as I've come to know you, is that you live a limitless life.
Yes.
Meaning that yes, you were a criminal defense attorney, and you have since gone all the way through into a couple. Was it 2 years ago that you won the Emmy for paternity court?
Yes. Yes, that would
Two
have been
years
two,
ago.
two or
Yep. So
three.
it's 2
Yeah.
years ago. So 2 years ago, you are helming starring in your own show, Paternity Court. But I don't think that people understand the grind in between there. And I want you to take us through this notion of limitlessness and Black excellence and how you work to embody those in all that you do.
Well, I'll tell you, people always say, well, how did you come up with this thing of limitless living? This was really a survival mechanism, right? I have been a person who has embraced my multifaceted um, talents, right? I think from the start, because it's how I made my living, right? When I was in law school, I would sing in bands on the weekend, corporate bands, wedding bands. I sang weddings, funerals, everything to
And
earn money.
background for Diddy.
Yeah, yes, I did. And that led to me becoming a professional background singer. I've sung background for Diddy and Mary J. Blige and JT Taylor and one of Jay-Z's Blueprint album. I've done a lot of things. And it's because what I've always had to do is monetize my gifts, right?
Keep going on
Because,
that. That's a thing. That's a real
well,
thing.
I had to, right? And I'm in law school, and so this money I'd make on the weekends would be what I could pay for my books, or I could pay my apartment rent, or whatever it was. And so I began early on to say, I don't want to leave any gifts just sitting on the table. How do I monetize what I do? And how do I trust my gifts and not allow others to value my gifts? When I got the show on HGTV, I never forget going to the audition, and I walked in and all these people had those big old portfolio things, and honey, they were sketching and talking about what they were going to do. And here I am, a lawyer, right? And a background singer. And my agent sends me here and I'm like,
Say
ooh,
that
I'm about
again,
to
please,
embarrass
in the
myself.
same sentence.
Yes, I'm about to embarrass myself and my ancestors, my mother, my father. I said, oh Lord. But when I went in there and they asked me, well, how do you design? And I said, well, I see things. I see things. And they looked and I said, it's just a very organic process. I look in a room, I see things, and I see how they come together. What I had to develop over time is this limitless mindset, right? That I cannot let other people's one-dimensional perspective of me, right, somehow interfere with my multifaceted destiny, the one that I know I have, right?
Right.
That others may be one-dimensional in thought as it relates to you. But if you have faith, if you really own and acknowledge the multifaceted, nature of who you are, and we are all that. We are all more than one thing. We are. And if you learn how to monetize those things, then you do what I call is living a limitless life. And that's what I do. That's why people go, well, how are you on TV and a designer? But then you're a TV judge, but then you were a background singer, but then you were this, because that's just all the things I am.
One of the things that you've done that I think is so important is you've lived your brand. And we talk a lot about encouraging women in general, but Black women in particular, to not be limited. How did you overcome what really is the safe route? You went to a great college and a great law school, and you went on to become an attorney, pass the bar, do all the actually a practicing attorney. Why don't you just sit your ass down and just be an attorney? Like just go be an attorney. But how many people, how many times the people who love you, and there are people who love you, pull you aside and say, Lauren, will you just sit your ass down and just be an attorney?
Many times, many times. They didn't know what I was doing. This crazy girl, oh my goodness. My grandmother used to be like, where is she going next? My parents didn't know what I was doing, but I knew what I was doing. And I knew that I didn't want to be I used to say this all the time. I don't want to be rocking on the rocking chair when I'm 87 talking about what I shoulda, coulda, woulda done. And I trust in the fact that the practice of law is not going anywhere, right? There will always be a person who needs a lawyer. But I have not just the right, but the responsibility to live out all that is me. And I think that is what a limitless mindset is. It's helping people understand that you can give yourself permission, right? You don't have to wait for anyone else to give you permission to be all that you are. You can give that permission to yourself. So when you're a practicing attorney with the house and the car and the life and the this, and everybody's looking like, ooh, that girl got it going on. Ooh, this is it. But you deep down are saying, but there's more. There's something else I want to try. Before I have children and I do all of these things, I want to travel the world. I always wanted to be a singer. I wanted to do this. You know what? I'm moving to LA. I did it because I could, right? Because it was on me. And as long as you can take care of your dream, right? And you can provide for yourself as you pursue your dream, then you should go after it. And that's what I did. That's limitless living. That is thinking outside the box, living outside the box.
You recognize that there are a lot of people who would see you on television in all your splendor and fabulosity and wouldn't understand that while you were doing CNN, they weren't paying for you. While you were doing MS, they weren't paying.
Only if I'm at the anchor desk filling in. I will say, if I was filling in as a guest host, I was paid. But a lot of those hits you're talking about, no.
Which is super important for people to understand, because we have a generation who wants to be paid right now. All of it right now. Give it to me right now. And they don't understand your grind of not just free, but how much you paid to be in a position, the position that you're in today. Can you talk? I know you got to go, and I'm trying to rush through it, but can you talk about the process? Because we see what we think is the product as if, oh, well, she won an Emmy and she's on television and she gets it. But that's not what happens in between the tapings. You're a mom. I don't want to call you a single mom. Your ex-husband is very much involved in your son's life, so I don't want to disregard his contributions. But you are a single mom, as it would be referred to. Talk about how you continue to exist and what the process looks like, because you're still in the game, still grinding.
Always. I mean, I think this is hard because I have a lot of mentees, right? And I've been trying to understand our next generation, right? And what they want and what angle they're coming from, right? Because I don't think any of us want to feel like we've left them behind. Like, we want to give them what we know. Much of it, sometimes they don't really care because they don't want to hear, like you said, about no hard work and doing a whole bunch for free and staying late and being the first one there and the last one to leave. And they're not trying to miss nobody's, party. It's just a different world. But I think that's one of the things we have to be most transparent about, because it's what people don't see. I have been a one-woman show for the last 25 years, right? I have been the secretary. I have been the talent. I have been the lawyer, and sometimes I have been the producer. I have done it all behind the scenes, because that's what it takes to learn. And this is where we're really going with this. And I think this is the part that I want our younger generation to understand, is that sometimes the only way to really learn it, right, is to do it. And so sometimes skipping 5 to 7 steps only makes you, yes, get to step 8, but then realize, oh, shoot, I don't know how to stay at step 8 because I didn't do steps 2 through 7. And so not just so much getting there, it's how do you stay? Well, and I think that grind is what has helped me stay for 20 something years is because I did the work, so that then when things don't happen, I can spin out and reinvent myself. I can set up a Zoom room and get to work and do this because I've done it before. I can, reinvent my career because I've done it before. And so setbacks don't set me back as far as maybe they would if you have not built a foundation for your gift.
Let's look at the foundation. Talk about the times where someone has asked you to speak in a classroom, not a big concert hall, or someone has asked you to speak at a church or come to a small group. Because I think what people do not understand is, before you were singing background for Mary J., you had to be singing somewhere that nobody even knew about.
Weddings and funerals. I said that earlier. Weddings and funerals. And yeah, that's the point. But it was at those weddings and funerals where I honed those songs, so that when I did have that audition, or I was in California and I do spin around and I'm in the studio with Dr. Dre and he tells me to come to an audition, I don't have any problem stepping up to a microphone and sing, because I do it every weekend. So while the other person's nervous in the corner, I'm just like, what time are we doing it? Because it's what I do. The foundation is already there. And that's no different from every single thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many assistants I've had that quit on me, right? I am demanding and I like what I like. But the wonderful thing about when they quit, it's just kind of like the page turns, because you don't stop my show, because there's really nothing that you're doing for me that I haven't already done for myself and that I can do for myself until I find the next person. And I don't mean that that's not that they are not valued.
No. I don't want you to pull back off of that, because I want you to stay there, Lauren. I want you to stay there because that's a super important point. What I hear you saying, because this is, as a Black woman, I want you to stay right there. I want you to say, I've set the chairs up in the hall that I booked first, that I did the flyers for, that I went around to the barbershops and beauty salons. That because when people see you today in the robe and in the fabulous hair, and they don't realize that you're not a quote unquote talent, right? You're a career that they're seeing a piece of. Because I want those who are watching, and I get that they could think, well, I want to be on TV. You don't even know what it's like. Like, if you're not on TV, you don't know what you're asking for, because that's not really what you really want. Because there are a lot of people on TV. There's nothing but content going on all the time. That's not what you want. You want a career. You want a career. I want you to talk about the granular parts of setting up the tables and doing those things and setting the events, like an example of something like that, so that people understand. Yeah, you see Judge Lauren Lake, but that's not how this thing got started.
No, it's not how it got started. I mean, like I said, I have been in the music business before I was in the television business. I have paid for my own studio time, wrote my own songs, went in and paid for the studio time, recorded them, paid to get them mixed, put the labels on. Look, I'm telling my age now. We used to have cassette tapes, okay? And label those and mail them out to people. And all of those things that I've done, as you said, I have done free events, talked at churches, and look, don't everybody now email me, invite me to speak for free.
They got to pay now. Or they got to pay now.
Look, I am CJ's driver. Okay, I have a job. But no, really. I have done all of these things because I believed in my mission and my message. And really, I believe that my craft is my ministry. I believe in those things. And so there was nothing for me to set up the tables, go print the flyers at a Kinko's and stand over there and cut them with the cutter, trying to get them straight myself. Nothing to it, right? And I can still, at 52 years old, I can jump back in that spot again.
And won't sweat it.
In a hot minute, and don't have any problems. People laugh at me because they'll say, why are you moving the tables? Why are you doing that? I'm so used to doing it that I will do it, because whatever it takes to get it done, that's what we have to do. And I think that's one of the things that I want to, you bring up a lot of people. I want to be on TV. I want to be on TV. And a lot of times I'll say to them, okay, let me pull up your name on my phone. And when I pull up their name on my phone, I don't see nothing. And I say, well, I thought you want to be on TV. Well, I do. I want to be on ETV. I want to be on this. I want to be on that. Well, why, when I go to this internet, do I not see a channel, a something, your social media where you're doing what you say you're so great at doing. Why do all I see is your butt and and pictures with your butt to the front when you're telling me you are a journalist or you are this? Where are you doing your craft? Right?
That's the point right there, though. That's
Why
it.
are we doing it?
What they're waiting for is to be invited to the conversation. They're being invited to be on TV as opposed to doing the things that you do. So you and I met, as we mentioned, through Bill Cosby.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why that is a unifying experience is because he and I met because of a book that I had written and I published myself. And
Man up.
Man up. I published it myself. And he got a hold of it and he contacted me. But trust and believe, before I went on and did that first Hannity and Combs, and before I had the opportunity to meet you, I had been on local access television. I had been on local cable access television. I had been in local debates. I was that 90 seconds that they gave me, I had done it 100 times. I had done it 1,000 times. And that's right. And people don't understand that when they cut the lights on and they cut the cameras on, you've been doing this for years. It's just that somebody decided to put the camera on. And so to your point, when these young women and men say to you that they want to do what you do, they don't understand that they should already be doing it. If they want a judge show, make a judge show. They want to design.
It's funny you said that, is because the reason why I wrote my self-published book, Girl, Let Me Tell You, is because of you. One of the first times, I don't know where we were, we either did a speaking thing together or either you were in New York, we met for lunch, and I was telling you that I was shopping for a book deal, but that I was frustrated because I was writing a book about life and love for single successful women. And I kept getting into these big, rooms of these publishers and all of this. And then they kept telling me, well, you need to tweak this. And, I don't think people want to really read this. And I was telling you this story and you were like, if you know the story that you're supposed to tell, then stop writing a book proposal and write a book. You said that to me. And that's exactly what I did. And I give that advice all the time when people say, stop proposing something that you believe to be true. And the truth is, you can be doing it and proposing it at the same time. You can be making the content and proposing it at the same time. You don't have to wait.
What people don't understand is publishers, TV networks, and the like are lazy as hell. And what they really want is something that's already selling. And so what people may not recognize is when you write a book for a mainstream publisher, Random House, whatever they are, Simon Schuster, what they want you to do is essentially write a book and tell them why this book is important. And then they will determine whether or not they buy the book from you.
That's right.
And you could spend years, literally, writing a book and then giving it to 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 people total for free. Yes. And they can tell your book sucks. Or you could take those same 5 copies and sell them for $10 a piece and make $50. Now you can decide which one you want to do. But the more of those copies that you sell, the more interesting you become to that publisher. The same is true to the TV networks. One of the reasons why they come for you is because they know what they're going to get. They've seen it. They can go on the internet. You've created a brand for yourself. So I want to finish here again. I know I've kept you longer than I wanted to, and I knew we would struggle to get through the time without making it longer. And we're gonna have to do this again. For me, what compels me to always want to talk to you is what appears to be your fearlessness. But what does it really look like when you're sitting there and there's a distance between the last gig and the next gig? What goes through your head?
Oh, this is a fantastic question. First of all, because you don't know that, but that's exactly what this says. This picture says she is fearless. That's what it says. Okay. And I often talk about fearlessness, right? Because people always say, oh, you're fearless. And I said, I am. But I am not fearless in the way that people perceive fearlessness to be. This doesn't mean that I don't feel fear, right? I wouldn't be human if I didn't feel fear sometimes. What I've learned and what fearlessness is to me is learning how to manage that fear, right? I know how to manage my fear. I know how to call fear when I know I'm feeling it. And what I do is begin to get to not just thinking, but to acting, right? I think the process of doing And the process of becoming, the process of evolving is one of the quickest ways to teach yourself how to manage your fear, almost like riding a bike. You can stand next to a bike all you want, and you can say, I know if I get on it and balance myself, I can go. That does not mean that when you get on, you'll be able to do it until you learn what that is in real time. And I think managing fear and knowing how to move through it is one of the things that I have just finally managed to master in my own life. So, oh, there goes an earring. Oh, well. So when I get done with feeling what I feel and saying, you know what? I feel fear. This is what it is. Now, what do? You know what I do? I say, write it down. My mother used to teach you pros, cons. Where are you at with this on paper? What can you do now to check off some of these boxes? Go out and do. Go out and check this off the box. And that's what I do. It's a real thing. It happens. I mean, Paternity Court, I will be moving on to another court show, starting it, We the People. This has been definitely a transition time where I've gotten quiet. You know, I think that's another thing is don't feel like, you know, I feel like today, nowadays, everybody feels like when you feel something, you got to tell it to everybody in real time. You know, good morning, everybody. Today I feel like this. Like, I don't have to tell you what I feel like today. Now, I might tell you 2 months from now what I felt like 2 months ago after I process it and wonder whether or not it is valuable information or information I want to share. But sometimes you got to get quiet. And I don't have any problems. I wasn't on social media and wasn't around nobody, talking to nobody for the whole summer because I was like, I need to reset. And I did that without fear, right? That, ooh, if I'm not on the internet, they're going to forget me. You know, I'm going to get canceled. They're going to just move on without me. No, because no one can do me like I do me. And I think once people understand that about their gifts, no one can do your gift like you do your gift. Nobody. I don't care what they do. They can take the recipe. The sauce will not be exactly the same unless you're in it. Once you rest in that, then you can get through the fear of what it looks like in the empty space. You can get through that fear of the meantime.
Lauren Lake, amazing as always, living limitlessly. I want to thank you again. I want to congratulate you again for your Emmy, which is not a small thing by any stretch. And I don't know why the Emmy isn't somewhere in the. I'm not in your
I knew you
design.
were going to say that. It's right there, but I don't always have. I ain't got to have it in every shot. This earring is getting my last nerve. I'm about to.
I got you.
This is good. This is good.
Now the earrings coming off. It's been real now.
So see, I took my earrings off. Now we're gonna really get into it. No, but I thank you. No, it's not in every shot. I do have it in this space, but it's not in this shot. And I thank you for that. And congrats to you, my dear friend. We have, we are friends for real. We talk outside of this podcast. So I'm so proud of all that you do and the way in which you create, right, safe and brave spaces for our young people to live their limitless lives, right, and learn what that means. And so, yeah, I thank you as well.
Well, I will say to you, and I think it's worth noting that when I came by that first time, I was like, this house is dope. You had to see this condo. I was like, this doesn't even look real. This is unbelievable. People live here. So it is you both living a limitless life in your person and in your space. And for me, what's super important is that people see you as the woman that you are, who is unafraid, completely unafraid, but most important, understands how to manage that fear. So thank you so much. Judge Lauren Lake with our new show coming up called We the People. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. I'm sure it's gonna be fireworks from the word go.
Thank you. Yes. You know how we do.
I am familiar with it. I'm familiar with it. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, Lauren Lake. So and folks, I want to take a second to remind you that the limits that we often encounter are not those that are imposed by those outside of us, is by ourselves. We're the ones who limit our ability. The story of Lauren Lake is one of a woman who is gifted, obviously, But I have to submit to you that we are all gifted, obviously. The problem is that too few of us have the courage to chase our gifts and allow them to do what it is that they must for us. Lauren is an example of a person who has decided not to allow what people think of her determine who she is. The point of No Dumb Questions is to push you to think differently about yourself and the world within which we live. The predictability of your opponent makes them beatable. I don't want you to be beatable. I want you to be limitless, as our friend Lauren Lake is. But more importantly, I want you to remember that the smartest person in the room is the one who asks the best questions. It's not the one with the best answers. So I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. Next week, we have another fantastic show. See you live and direct on any platform that you watch. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you.